this is Jazz from Along the Way with J&J. Thanks for checking out the next video in our Hobbies on the Go series. Today we'll be talking about knives. But first, a couple of disclaimers. Number 1, this video is 18 and over. We don't encourage children to play with knives, even though we did when we were younger. But that was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So kids, if you're watching, go to bed. Number 2, like a lot of other things in the RV lifestyle, whenever you're traveling to a new place or a new state, you want to be aware of specific laws. And that's especially true with knife collecting. As an example, in our home state of Massachusetts, there are many different restrictions on carrying concealed blades. Nothing that is assisted open or spring-loaded can be carried concealed. Anything with a blade over 1 1/2 inch can't be carried concealed. However, there aren't a lot of laws as far as ownership goes. So with that being said, all of the knives that we're going to be looking at today are for collector's purposes only. I have a couple of my heavy-duty cases laid out in front of me. These cases were picked up online at a website called budk.com, and budk.com sells all kinds of knife-related things. You can pick up knives at a lot of tourist shops. That's pretty much where we've gotten the majority of these knives. You can also get them at shows. And there haven't really been many knife shows in Massachusetts, but there's definitely places you can look online to find out when knife shows are coming your way. So, as I mentioned, these cases are really durable and they're perfect for your rig. So if you're a full-timer and you're into knives and you want to have something that is sleek and easy to carry, these cases are it. So the one I have open here, it just kind of rolls out, and you can see that there are different compartments for each individual knife. There's a vinyl covering for each pocket that is pretty thick, so it's not going to bend or warp or rip. And you can keep your knives safe in here, and then when you're finished playing with them or looking at them, you can just roll up the case and store it away very easily. And this one over here, this is an example of what it looks like when it is closed. So you can see it's pretty long, and the width is maybe about an inch or so. It does have this really nice carry strap that can be adjusted, so that's great as well. So now what I'd like to do is just show you a handful of examples of knives in my collection. And I'm going to call them the name that I've always known them by. So again, if I need to be corrected, I'd love to hear from you. So the first knife I want to show you guys is this one right here. And this knife is what I've always considered to be a switchblade. So I remember watching movies with knife fights and, dramatic scenes, and, all the tough guys and the street gangs would carry these knives. And I was always fascinated by them and did have a couple when I was younger, but it was mostly like a Swiss Army knife and something that was relatively harmless. So I got away from knife collecting as I got older, but then probably about 8 or 10 years ago in Massachusetts, they actually changed the law where they allowed you to own spring-assisted knives. I think there was a time where you couldn't even own them. So when that changed, we started seeing them a lot at flea markets and yard sales, and as I mentioned, when we were traveling in Lady T. So we started to pick them up, and every time we go somewhere, we just check and see if we can find something on the cheap, 10 or 15 bucks. They have all different kinds of spring-assisted knives, but this was always my favorite. So this right here is a classic kind of styling with the wood grain here. And my idea of a switchblade was always a blade that was contained in the handle and swung out in an arc. So this particular one right here, there's a button, and then there's a latch for safety. So if we take this latch and we push that down, press the button, the blade comes out. Okay, so this was always my favorite type of knife when I was younger. I always thought they were really cool and, just awesome looking. So in order to close this, there's a kind of a push down option right here that is part of the accent. You press that down and you just simply close the knife. You'll hear it click, and then you press this button up and it's locked. So this is what I always considered to be a switchblade. Now my other favorite type of knife when I was younger, and these were in a lot of street gang movies as well. I always understood this to be a stiletto knife. So a stiletto to me was Also an assisted open where the blade was contained within the handle, but instead of arcing out, it came up through the handle. And there's this button here that you press, the blade comes out, and this one is double-edged. This is another type of blade that's banned in Massachusetts for concealed carry, even though it's not very sharp. Again, these are strictly collector's purposes, so it's not like we're going to carry these out in public and try to enact a scene from West Side Story. So anyway, you press the button down and the blade goes back in. Now on this one, there's not a safety. So if you were carrying this in your pocket and you move the wrong way, that could turn out very badly for you. So don't do that. So in preparing for this video, I just started to look up a few things online, and I realized that, I know that a stiletto derives from an Italian style of knife, but I guess I didn't realize that there's such a thing as a stiletto switchblade. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. So this knife right here is what I believe would be considered a stiletto switchblade. So it looks pretty much similar to the switchblade, right? And the notch for this one to open it is right here, again, in the accent of the handle. So you press down on that, and the blade swings open. Now this particular style is called a stiletto. Now a stiletto is a fixed blade. It's not an assisted blade, but it has this very pointy, long blade. And at some point, somebody had the bright idea of making these assisted open, so they combined the stiletto styling with the switchblade action and created a stiletto switchblade. This one has kind of a coating on it, like a cobalt color. It's a very nice piece. And to close this one, there's a latch right here that you have to press down, put pressure on it, and it goes right back into place. And most of these knives will also have a little metal piece here where you can latch it onto a belt or a pocket. Now, my third favorite kind of knife is a knife called a butterfly knife. And I assume that they call it a butterfly knife because of the way the handles open. So in this knife, the blade is contained within the handle, which is separated in two pieces and latched at the bottom. If you lift this latch up and you swing the handle out, you now have your butterfly knife. Okay, so this one is a very nice black and blue color, and these knives were a lot of fun because when we were kids, we would, do different tricks with them. So you just have to be careful because you don't want to drop this and cut a toe off, but there are little different tricks that you can do, definitely a lot more than that, but just to show you an example of how fluid the opening is on the knife. So these are still, even though they're not spring-loaded, they're still considered a quick open knife. So these are also banned for concealed carry in Massachusetts and probably some other states as well. So again, make sure you know where you're going and try not to carry one of these on you unless you're going someplace where you're not going to get arrested. Like, an audition or a knife show where people bring knives and show them off. And the next thing I want to show you is a couple of the spring-assisted knives in my collection. So these are knives that are a little bit more modern styling. They have all different types of colors and designs. And what I also want to point out is that sometimes when you're constantly opening and closing the knives, the little screws here, these hex head screws can get loosened. So when you open the knife, it's not as clean as that. You don't hear that snap. It just kind of weakly comes out because it needs to be adjusted. So this little screwdriver right here, we picked this up at a show, and it fits right in here, and you can twist these nuts and play with the open to make sure that it's opening to your liking. Now this particular knife here, this is kind of a fancy one. It has this flame design on it. It's a really cool color. It's iridescent, changes color depending on which direction you're pointing it in. And this is considered an assisted open. So it doesn't really have the styling of the stiletto or the switchblade, but it's still really cool. And M-Tech actually is a brand of knife. We have a lot of knives from them. They're very well made, but very reasonably priced. So check out M-Tech if you get a chance. And this last piece I wanted to show you out of the larger knives in my collection, this one is also a spring assist. You can see it has this really cool handle, and you press here, oops, and the blade comes out. Now, this blade is, this type of knife is called a gambit or a claw. And you can see here there's a finger hold for you to put a finger here and give it a little bit more leverage. So if you were intending to do damage with this, you could definitely hurt something. You stick it in, hook and then pull down. Again, just trying to illustrate that there is a reason why a lot of these knives should be left at home, because you assume that if someone has one on their person that they're going to hurt somebody or something, and we don't want to do that. This is just for fun, just a kind of a childhood obsession that materialized into a collection. So the last thing I wanted to show, and I'm going to move these out of the way, is just a couple of my tiny novelty knives that I have in this smaller case here. So I'm going to open this up, and you see we have a bunch of stubbies here. So we have this little green one with a biohazard symbol on it. This is a spring assist, and the blade, this is probably a blade that you could get away with in mass. It's about 1.5 inches, and it has a finger hole here. So, if you wanted to whittle away at something, if you carved wood or whatever, this could be a really cool, thing to have in your pocket. And another fun piece in the collection is this little tiny butterfly knife that was a keychain. It was just something fun, and I really get a kick out of it every time I open it. Again, this is another like 1.5 inch blade, so it's not going to hurt anything. I mean, unless you want to pick your teeth with it. It really is just for fun. And then the last piece I'd like to show you, this one is one of my favorites in my entire collection. This is a twofer. So we picked this up, I want to say it was at one of the touristy places that we stopped at on our Route 66 trip. And this knife is really cool. So this has a blade in the handle. You press the button, you push it up, and it's double-edged, just like the last one I showed you, a little bit smaller. And you press the button, it goes back down. And then after you're done, intimidating somebody, and you say, hey, I need a cigarette, it's also a lighter. Ha! What do you think about that? Picked this up for like probably $10. Jay got one too. We had a lot of fun with them. So anyway, just a cool little novelty that is pretty useful for starting fires. So if you're in the woods and you need to, cut some brush and then light it to stay warm because you're lost, this is the perfect little knife to have on you. So anyway, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if anybody has any comments out there or might want to, share some pictures of pieces they have in their own collection, that would be great. Would love to hear from you. And hope everyone is staying safe and sane, and we'll see you on the road. Bye.